between Ron's meditation and that, I hope I make sense. So a few weeks ago, I was at my ladies' gym called Curves. I'm like the youngest one there, I really like it. And I noticed that there's a woman over there, and she's wearing a t-shirt that had some interesting writing on the back. So I'm at my station doing my thing, and I got off the circuit and I went over to her and asked her if I could read her back. Now, I'm very sure she thought that I was a little bit weird, but she turned around to let me see what was written on her back, and it was cool, and I thanked her, and I went back to my machines, and I'm doing that, and I got to thinking that what I saw would actually make a really cool talk. And so, oh, thank you. Let there be light. I got this light idea that it would make a cool talk. So I went back to her, and I asked her if I could not only read her back, but could I write down what it said. And I explained to her that I was not just some random person who was wanting to read her clothing, but that I was a minister who is always looking for talk ideas, and hopefully she understood me. So what was written on the back was this really cool acronym for the word breathe. Breathe. And I was quite taken with it. So I had planned that I was going to use it last week for my talk. I had this whole talk already figured out in my mind, but unfortunately my body didn't cooperate, and I was struck with a bout of vertigo last Saturday that just about did me in. I swear to God, it laid me out for a couple of days, and called Reverend Marjorie as the room is spinning and asked her if she'd fill in with me. So next time you see Reverend Marjorie, tell her thank you from me. So I've got this talk idea in my mind, right? And then I realized that Trevor was going to be our musician today. And I thought, how perfect could this be for a talk about breath? So we're going to talk about that in just a little bit, but what I wanted to do was explore this acronym with you, because it provides a very usable tool. And you know, I'm all about usable tools. Ernest Holmes says, we spend far too much time in theory and not enough in actual practice. And so if you leave here and you don't have a little gem of something that you can use to provide your, make your life better, then I'm not doing my job. So I really think that this acronym is going to help you. It's going to help you to stay focused on what's important in life. So I found this quote by, if somebody can correct me as I pronounce this, it's from Orthodox Greek, Nicephorus the Solitary. Did I say that right? Anybody know? Nicephorus the Solitary, who was a monk, and his writings have inspired a lot of really heart and breath meditation. So let me share with you what he wrote, because it's quite beautiful. He says, you know that our breathing is the inhaling and exhaling of air. The organ that serves for this is the lungs that lie round the heart, so that the air passing through them thereby envelops the heart. Thus, breathing is a natural way to the heart. And so, having collected your mind within you, lead it into the channel of breathing through which air reaches the heart. And together with this inhaled air, allow your mind to descend into the heart and remain there. So everybody take a deep breath. And as you let it out, let it descend into your heart as we listen to the rest of this talk. Now you may be wondering why I want to talk about breathing. I mean, breathing comes naturally to us, right? It's one of those automatic physical functions that we do. We don't have to think about it, we just do it. And yet, anybody who has studied anything about spiritual practice, whether it's meditation or it's yoga or anything like that, knows that when we are breathing consciously, on purpose, it takes us to a deep and spiritual place. For instance, I'm going to give you a little etymology lesson here. The word inspire comes from the Latin inspirare, which means to blow into, to breathe upon. That's the root word of the word inspire. And then if you break it down even more, the in means to take in, and the spire means spirit. Therefore, inspiration is spirit breathing into us. Cool? Yeah. Hey, how cool is that? I know. And then Ernest Holmes, who was our founder, we've got a number of new people here. The founder of our teaching is Ernest Holmes. And he said this about breath. He said, we draw every breath of life from spirit, or we should cease to exist. Everything we touch, taste, smell, see, handle, or are conscious of is drawn from the invisible, directly and unmistakably. When he means the invisible, he's talking about spirit, that life force energy. So breathing is so much more than the automatic inhaling of oxygen and exhaling of carbon dioxide. When we do it consciously, it is a spiritual practice that spiritual seekers have been doing for thousands of years. So with that in mind, let's take a look at our acronym, BREATHE, that I got off the back of a perfect stranger, the things I do for you. And as we go through these steps, I invite you to think about a situation or circumstance in your life, a concern that you might be having right now as we go through these steps, okay? Because what we're going to do is we're going to breathe into the situation, and maybe from these steps we're going to be able to figure out an inspiration or a solution to it. So the first B stands for believe. Now when I'm talking about believe right now, I'm talking about believing that there is a spiritual solution or an understanding to whatever the situation may be in your life. To really believing that there's a possibility of a solution, because the truth is, okay, I was going to make a blanket statement and say we all, so I'm going to change that and say the truth is sometimes I pray and I treat for a solution or an answer or a resolution to a situation, but I don't really believe it's possible. I know that I should believe it. I want to believe it, but deep down in my heart, I don't quite believe it. And then I'm bummed because there's no change. But as Jesus taught, it is done unto you as you believe. It is done unto you as you believe. So right now, let's begin our practice with our acronym about breathing in belief. Even if it's as simple as simply saying, I breathe in and I open myself to believe that all things are possible with God. Breathe in. Our next letter is R for release. Now, we talk a lot about release in our teaching. It's one of the essential steps of our form of prayer called spiritual mind treatment. It's about the importance of letting go and letting God. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But in this case, when I'm talking about release, I'm talking about, oh, Pat, again, I'm just realizing this talk was totally for me. And you guys are just listening in. I hope that's okay with you. When I'm talking about release right now, I'm talking about releasing our attachment to how it's supposed to look. Because if we're being 100% honest, most of us really think we know the answer to whatever's going on in our life, right? But the thing that we're really, really upset with is that people, places, and circumstances aren't cooperating. Yes? And we think, well, if they would only, whatever that only is, then everything would be just fine. And yet, as it says in the 12-step program, your best thinking got you here. So perhaps, what we need to redo is to release our idea of what it's supposed to look like and allow a new idea to come in. Which brings us to our third letter, which is E, and that stands for expand. Because when we open ourselves up to believing, and we have released our attachments to how it's supposed to look, that's making room for expansion. Expansion of ideas, expansion of possibilities, expansion of grace, so to speak. Because if we are so stuck in our idea of things, it doesn't allow for the grace, for the serendipity of spirit to come in. But when we breathe, our lungs expand, and so does our receptivity to what's possible. And what else expands is our capacity to receive. Taking a deep breath. Our next letter is A for align. I love this one. I want you to think about a time when inspiration and expansion was absolutely showing up in your life. And you felt as if your entire being came into alignment with spiritual truth. You've been there, haven't you? You know what I'm talking about. When that happens, it's as if all the pieces of yourself all line up. And you know that you're absolutely in the flow. Your life makes sense. You are whole. Taking a deep breath. Our next letter is T for trust. Because when you are in that place of wholeness, when you're in that place of alignment, it's important to allow yourself to trust it as being true and real and authentic. Because it is true. It is real. You are being your true, authentic self when everything is aligned together. The problem happens is that sometimes we're experiencing this sense of wholeness. We're experiencing this sense of connection. And then our lower self starts yapping. Who do you think you are? Too good to be true. Can't be this easy to be aligned. Well, we have to understand that when, especially if we've gotten there, you know what I'm talking about. And when that voice starts happening, we need to remember that that voice, that's your lower self. It cannot possibly fathom this alignment and this wholeness. It's down here, and what you're experiencing is up here. So just because your lower self can't fathom it, can't see it, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It exists. It's true, and it's real. So trust it. Take a breath. Our next letter is hope. I had a little tiny reaction to the word hope. In fact, I almost changed it because as religious scientists, as metaphysicians, we don't usually use the word hope. In our language, hope isn't definite enough. It's a little wishy-washy. I hope it happens. We like words like no, and claim and declare and accept. I accept it in my life. And yet, sometimes, I'll speak for myself again, we get to the point where we're not there yet. We're not quite there yet. Before we get to that place of knowing and claiming and accepting and declaring, we have to have a little bit of hope. Yeah? Especially if it's a really challenging thing. So for this example today, let's think of hope as being the seed that we are planting, that will grow into the knowing and the accepting and the declaring and the claiming. And then our last letter is exhale. In breathing, it is necessary to exhale as well as inhale. And you may be going, well, duh. But the truth is there is a spiritual lesson here again. Because to exhale is to truly release, to let go, to completely trust. Taking a deep breath, and then let it go. What would happen if we just inhaled and refused to exhale because maybe there's going to be another inhale? So it sounds funny, like, oh, come on, but really, how often do we do that in life? How often do we breathe in and we believe and we align and we accept and we trust and we hope, and then we try to keep it in? We're not exhaling, releasing it into the universe to do its thing. But if we don't exhale, there's no room for the inhale to happen again, to start the process over again. For every inhale, there has to be an exhale. Breathe in and breathe out. So I love how spirit works. There are no accidents in this universe. Like I said, I had planned to do this talk last week, had it all worked out in my mind, everything, and I got sick. And then imagine my delight when I remembered that our guest musician today was Trevor, who plays the didgeridoo. And there is no instrument in the world, Oliver does a little bit of this, but there's no instrument in the world that illustrates the importance of breath more than the playing of the didgeridoo. So I've asked Trevor, he's going to come up and he's going to explain just a little bit about the breathing technique that he uses to play the didge and to give you an example. So Trevor, if you want to come on up, and I think, what are we going to do about a microphone for you? Can you pull the one off the, yeah, good. Please welcome Trevor again.
So with the didgeridoo, we do what's called circular breathing, where instead of the inhale and the exhale, you're taking a little part of the exhale and making it a part of the inhale. Believe it or not, you can do this. And it's the same thing with the qualities we just described. You can do them concurrently. You don't have to do the first part. Unless the anal retention month. But the way it works is every time your jaw comes up, you can take a breath. Why so? Because you're squeezing that pocket of air that's in your mouth. In that space of time, you can breathe in through your nose, into your belly.
You want to show us on the instrument? We had this all worked out. together now. What we're going to do is a breathing meditation. And we're going to use part of that quote from the Sephirus. And we're going to include our breathing acronym in that. And we're going to have accompaniment of the didgeridoo. How cool does that sound? So you ready to play there beneath me? Okay. So just close your eyes if you're comfortable. Take in a deep breath. And exhale. And take in another deep breath. And exhale. Breathing is the inhaling and the exhaling of air. The air goes into the lungs that surround the heart. So as you go deeper into meditation, imagine the air is passing down your windpipe into your lungs and enveloping your heart. Imagine that the air that is filling and expanding your lungs is surrounding your heart. And now take your mind, your thought, and allow it to follow down your windpipe and settle in your heart and remain there. And now bring to mind a challenge or a question that you may have. And as you breathe in and breathe out from the heart, believe that there is a solution or an answer to your situation. And say to yourself, I believe. Release your expectation of how it is to be resolved. And say to yourself, I release. And now as you are breathing in and out, expand your receptivity to possibility. And say to yourself, I expand. Align yourself with your higher self. And say, I am aligned. Trust that what you are experiencing is your true self. And say to yourself, I trust. Plant the seed of hope that all things are possible. And say to yourself, I hope. And finally, exhale. Let go. Let God. Believe, release, expand, align, trust, hope, and exhale. Take in one more deep, cleansing breath. And audibly let it go. And when you are ready, begin to come back to the room, back to this place, and open your eyes. Namaste. So, did you do